Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we finally get the debut of Bryce Harper at first base. I'll talk to you about what the lineup looks like and how that changes everything for the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll preview their series with the Cleveland Guardians that starts tonight, and we'll also discuss off the poll. I got a poll question for you for the weekend that'll be on our Twitter account. So it's a packed Friday episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. Credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member here, my second year as host of Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're rating and reviewing wherever you consume this in podcast form. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give us a little subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, doesn't cost you anything, helps me out a bunch, gets you notifications when new episodes are posted. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't yet done so. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And just appreciate you however you're tuning into Locked On Phillies. That's the word I'm looking for. The Phillies, we know they've dropped their last 2 games. They lost the final 2 games of their series with the Milwaukee Brewers, but no rest for the wicked. They go against the Cleveland Guardians tonight up in Cleveland, and Bryce Harper is going to start at first base for the Philadelphia Phillies. Finally, right? Because we were told by the organization he was expected to get a start at first base against the Milwaukee Brewers. He ended up not doing so. And that was kind of questionable because Derek Hall didn't have a great series over there. And then you had to use Alec Boehm there, and Edmundo Sosa made an error at third base in a big spot, and Christopher Sanchez to start. It was a whole thing. I need Bryce Harper to be able to play first base, and the Phillies need Bryce Harper to play first base for a huge reason. We'll get into the lineup here in a second. But the biggest thing, it's not just, oh, cool, Kyle Schwarber can go to designated hitter. You need to know if you need to go get a first baseman at the trade deadline. If Bryce Harper can play first base and does so well over the next 2 weeks, then you're good. If he can't do that, well, then you're sitting here thinking, okay, I don't know exactly what our plan is at first base. And Bryce Harper's not an answer, and Derek Hall doesn't seem to be an answer. If we move Alec Boehm, we need a third baseman, and then we need somebody to play left field if we want Kyle Schwarber to DH, but Bryce Harper might have to DH. It's a whole thing. Him playing first base and being able to play first base is the easiest route, but the Phillies need to find out soon, and they need more than just like a couple game sample size to know. So he should be playing first base consistently, and that's tough to manage, right? Because part of you, like I said, wants to know what you have at first base with Bryce Harper, so you want to play him there as much as possible. Part of you also says, hey, he is still coming back from a full elbow reconstruction, Tommy John surgery. So you can't play him there every day if he's sore and risk injuring the guy. It's a delicate balance that the Philadelphia Phillies have to find, but they're finding it starting tonight. So Bryce Harper is going to bat cleanup and play first base. Of course, that means Kyle Schwarber is going to move to DH. And this is what the lineup relatively should look like. Jake Cave is going to get the start in left field. Our old pal Jake Cave, who's batting .222 on the year and 63 major league at bats, has 1 home run, 9 RBIs. Good left-handed defender out there. And I don't know, we'll see if he gives you anything at the dish. But I think that spot's going to be more Johan Rojas when he ends up being available to play up here again and looks good enough to be an everyday player. But for now, they like Jake Cave because he has that more major league experience. He's been with other organizations and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think, like I said in yesterday's episode, and you can go listen to my full thoughts on it in the final segment of yesterday's episode, I think Adam Duvall would be a great guy to go get to put out there in left field and have him play on days that Kyle Schwarber DHs and Bryce Harper plays first base. But right now, the way the first lineup looks, yes, Schwarber moves to DH, but still bats leadoff. Bryce Harper to first base, and you've got Jake Cave out there in left field. Now, what am I watching for most with Bryce Harper at first base? The number one thing, let's start with this. I want to make sure he looks comfortable, and I'm not talking about his ability to field the ball or his footwork or anything like that. I'm talking about how much he touches, adjusts, stretches out his elbow. his throwing arm elbow. I don't want to see any twinge of, ooh, that looked like it kind of hurt him. Oh, it looked like he tweaked something. No, I want him to look very comfortable over there at the position. And on top of that, I want to see what his velocity looks like throwing the ball. Is he lollipopping it when he throws it around the horn? Are they throwing the ball to him when they go around the horn? Is he going to get any plays where he has to throw the ball down to second and recover first base to get a double play? What do his flips to the pitcher look like? Does that bother him at all? I mean, the UCL deals with extension of the elbow. So if you're watching on YouTube, it's your elbow being extended. That could be through flips, because if you flip, your elbow extends. Your arm's just up in the air. If you go like this, you're throwing over the top, your elbow extends. It's this exterior part, or sorry, the interior part here. The exterior is the triceps tendon. It's the interior part of the elbow here down underneath a little bit that when you extend, you put a lot of pressure on. So I want to make sure that he's healthy in that manner and continues to stay that way. Then after that, we'll take a look at his fielding, the glove work, the footwork, knowing the right plays to make at the right time, being in the right spot at the right time. Like bunt situation. Someone tries to push one down the first base line. Does he know to go get it or cover the bag if the pitcher's got it? Double play opportunities. Does he know to go get the ball if it's closer to second base, but his momentum's taking him towards second base? Like all this stuff that's typical of a first baseman. Basically, the eye test. Does this guy look like he has a clue of how to play first base? And I'm also very interested to see what his at-bats look like. Because remember, we can say what we want about Bryce Harper being the super athlete and coming back so quick from Tommy John and everything. He hasn't played the field in a long time. And I'm sure he's in great shape to be able to run the bases and stuff like that. I'm not suggesting he's not capable of this, but I'm interested to see how playing the field maybe tires him out a little bit more. And maybe his inability to sit in the dugout and focus on his next at-bat and get some swings in the cage affects his at-bats a little bit. I don't know. These are major changes for Bryce Harper, who got used to being on the bench for about a year. And just designated hitting. So a lot of change. And of course, the other fringe benefit is Kyle Schwarber doesn't have to play left field. How much better does the Phillies defense look as a whole? Is Brandon Marsh more comfortable in center field because he has Jake Cave in left? Are there going to be some balls tonight that Kyle Schwarber would not have gotten to that Jake Cave makes plays on? We could certainly see that, and that could make you feel good. Maybe even if Bryce Harper is not a plus at first base, Jake Cave is a plus in left field, or they're both net neutral, and that evens out to a better defense. Who knows? Because there's more to this equation than just Bryce Harper. You also have to look at the upgrade you're getting in left field over Kyle Schwarber, which should be a significant one. And Jake Cave isn't even the best potential fielder in that spot. I would call that Johan Rojas or Christian Pache if he comes back from his issue that he's having with his elbow and surgery that may have ended his season, but Rob Thompson seems sure that he's going to be available at some point. There's a whole interesting situation with injuries and moving around, and this is the part of the season where you start to figure out what the finished product is going to look like. And in between all of this, you still have a baseball game to win. You still got to go out and play a team in the Cleveland Guardians, who currently have a 47-49 record, right around 500, and try and take care of business to bounce back from 2 losses to the Milwaukee Brewers at home over the past few days. Tonight's game, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go ahead to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you can pull that all up there. But yeah, 3-game set in Cleveland. Road series, the first road series of the second half. The first road series of the second half last year was their first series out of the break in Chicago, and they got swept by the Cubs. So hopefully the Phils can go on the road and continue that hot stretch they had on the road to end the second half, or end the first half, I should say. But yeah, that game tonight, and we'll preview the pitching matchups, the lineup, all that good stuff coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to talk about my friends over at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is a perfect fit. That's what we were just talking about. Can Bryce Harper fit at first base, and Kyle Schwarber in left field, or Kyle Schwarber in DH, and Jake Cave in left field, all that good stuff. How great would it be, though, if you just absolutely knew it was going to work? Like, you put Kyle Schwarber at DH and he gets a green check mark, and you put Bryce Harper at first base and he gets a green check mark. Well, that's what eBay Motors does for you. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle, right? Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, you can go ahead and be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage and look for that green check I was talking about. They'll literally put the green check out there. This part will fit your car. And you add that in. You look for the green check to know the part will fit, or you get your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you're going to be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. All right, let's get into tonight's game between the Phillies and the Cleveland Guardians. Now, I heard something. I don't know if this is true or not. One of my buddies at the station over at 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio let me know this stat that he saw on Twitter. So it's whispered down the lane, and I don't know if it's true, but this is something that I heard. That the Phillies are the last team in Major League Baseball to play the Guardians. I guess the last time the Phillies played the Cleveland baseball team, they were still referred to as the Indians. And now they've made the name change and have for over a season. But I guess the Phillies might not have played them last year and haven't played them until this point this year. So there's a chance that this is the last Major League team to play the Guardians in their new form. So, hey, cool. You get a lot more information on the team. Not that much has changed since they changed the name. Like, it doesn't change the roster or their ability to play baseball. But interesting. Possibly, if my numbers are right and the numbers I were given are correct, the first time in history that the Philadelphia Phillies have played the Cleveland Guardians. So there you have it. A little bit of history there, possibly, if that's right, which there's a very real chance it's not. Bottom line, let's talk about the actual game. 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast of their matchup with the Guardians on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. Now, Ranger Suarez is going to take the mound, and he's going to face off against Gavin Williams. Now, Gavin Williams, not exactly a huge sample size in his major league career. He's thrown 29 2/3 innings at the major league level. All of them have come this year. But he's got a solid little stat line here. 1-2 record, 3.94 ERA, a 1.18 whip, 23 strikeouts in 29 2/3 innings. So not a huge strikeout guy, but that ERA, sub-4, it's respectable. He's a guy that's held his own, a right-handed pitcher, a young guy who the Phillies probably don't have a lot of tape on because not that much exists, but he's been all right in his slight work for the Cleveland Guardians so far this year. Ranger Suarez, 2-4 record, 3.84 ERA, a 1.35 whip, and 68 innings pitched. He's allowed 67 hits, so needs to get that down. 25 walks, but struck out 62 in 68 innings. Has allowed 7 home runs, though. Gavin Williams, in those 29 2/3 innings, has allowed 4 home runs. So the long ball bites him a little bit. He has 11 walks, so he's walking someone about every 3 innings. So you don't want to be overly patient, but you're not too worried about the strikeout quotient for Gavin Williams. It's a night where the Phillies should be able to take advantage of a young, inexperienced pitcher who's shown flashes but isn't quite ready to be really good consistently at the major league level yet. Maybe one day Gavin Williams will be, but right now he is not. Now, career against Gavin Williams, none of these hitters have ever seen him. So this is a new type of experience for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I know what happens when we hear about young pitchers that the Phillies have never seen. Immediately, the pessimistic part of the fan base goes to, oh, well, they're getting no hit tonight. I know there have been times in the past where they've seen guys that aren't supposed to be good and they get shut down, and then they see guys that are really good and they shell them and all this good stuff. I get it, but we just remember those times because they're more anomalistic. It's not really a real thing, and the Phillies have just as good a chance as any night to go out there and have a good night offensively. Let's run through the full lineup. I've already told you a couple things that's going on, but Kyle Schwarber is going to lead off in DH. Trey Turner is going to play shortstop. That's second. Nick Castellanos batting third, playing right. Bryce Harper batting cleanup, playing first base for the first time. Much must-watch TV, seeing Bryce Harper play first base. JT Realmuto going to bat fifth and catch. Bryson Stott playing second base, batting sixth. Alec Boehm in the 7-hole, playing third base. Natural position over there for him. Brandon Marsh is going to be in center, batting eighth, and batting ninth, rounding out the lineup and taking Kyle Schwarber's everyday spot in left field is Jake Cave. Cave's numbers, 222 on the year, 1 home run, 9 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 63 at-bats to show for it. All the other guys, obviously significantly more sample size, up in the 300s or mid-200s of at-bats. So Solid looking lineup. I wouldn't really change too much about it if I were Rob Thompson. Fine with that. And Jake Cave, left-handed batter, you go ahead and put him against the right-handed Gavin Williams. Makes sense. Now, the Cleveland lineup, which we might not know too much about. I mean, they're one of those weird AL Central teams you obviously don't see that often. I just told you it might be the first time you ever play them with this new name. Some names that you might not be familiar with. Quan leading off, playing left field. Rosario, not Eddie. Rosario in Cleveland, batting shortstop, batting second. Ramirez, third base. Naylor, first base. Naylor putting together a nice little year over there. Our old pal Josh Bell is batting cleanup. I mean, the Phillies are very familiar with him. Or not batting cleanup. He's batting fifth. Fry catching, batting sixth. Jimenez, second base, seventh. Straw, batting eighth, playing center. Arias, right field. I mean, that's a who's who of who are these guys. And some of those names, like Jose Ramirez is a guy that we're familiar with. He's got 14 home runs this year, batting 287. Josh Naylor is a guy who's batting 310 this year with 15 home runs. He's been a really, really good player for them. Josh Bell. Of course, Stephen Kwan, who's been a solid leadoff hitter. He's batting 269, but he's a guy that hits for average pretty well for them. Now, Ranger Suarez has only faced 4 of these guys ever. He's faced Ahmed Rosario. How many times is that? 3, 5? Yeah, so 5 times. I was trying to do math to add it together. That's not how that works. He's faced him 5 times. Rosario's batting 600 against him. Josh Naylor, 0 for 1 against Ranger Suarez. Josh Bell, 1 for 8 against him, batting 125. So Ranger Suarez has had success against Bell in his career. That one hit is a home run. And Jimenez has seen him 1 time, I guess, for a walk because he's listed as 0 for 0 with a 0 batting average here. So not a lot of sample size on either pitcher from the personal perspective, but there's more, obviously, tape out there on Ranger Suarez. This is a lineup in Cleveland that's, I don't know, they're not doing anything all that crazy special outside of Josh Naylor, but Josh Naylor's good enough, you got to avoid him. Home run leaders for the teams. Schwarber's leading both teams with 26. Josh Naylor leads the Guardians with 15. Bryce Harper's batting 305 to lead the Phillies. Josh Naylor batting 310 to lead the Guardians. And Kyle Schwarber has 59 RBIs. Josh Naylor, 75 RBIs on the year. The guy's been really, really good. If there's someone to avoid, it's that guy in the cleanup spot that wears number 22 and plays over there at first base. He's a problem. I just watched a video of him going yard the other day. I forget against who. It might have been against the Braves. I don't know. He's a really, really good hitter and has been this year. He's a guy lefty that you got to look out for. And with Ranger Suarez being on the mound, it gives you the opportunity as a left-handed pitcher on a left-handed batter to kind of neutralize him. But it's going to be a tough matchup with Naylor. The rest of the lineup you should be able to handle. But the Guardians are not like a walk-over team. They're a good team. I do still need the Phillies to win 2 out of 3 against them, though, this series. You just have to. You lost 2 or 3 to the Brewers. You got to bounce back. You got to win the next series. You win tonight, you give yourself an opportunity to set up a sweep with a win tomorrow, and maybe you have a good weekend where you just sweep the Guardians out on the road and you keep that hot road streak going. Who knows? But it's an opportunity. So, yeah, Phillies Guardians coming up, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you can pull everything up there. Coming up, I got an off-the-poll question for you. A poll question we'll put on our Twitter account, but I'll ask you here on the podcast as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, it's time for Off the Poll. Now, off the poll, I'll give you the question today. I'm going to post it on Twitter at ConnorThomas975 and at LO_Phillies, which is the account information for both my account and the main Locked On Phillies account. You'll have all weekend, 2 days worth of time to get in on that Twitter poll. So go ahead and make your votes heard. And I'm not going to give you my thoughts today because I don't want to go ahead and bias what you think by stating like my thoughts on the matter, and you might say, oh, okay, this, that, and the other thing. Connor made a good point here. No, I want your thoughts. So with that in mind, I'm just going to pose the question, and we're going to go ahead and move on. Now, my question is about the All-Star break, the trade deadline. I'm going to ask you what position you think is most valuable for the Philadelphia Phillies to add during the trade deadline or at the trade deadline or however I word it. You get what I'm saying. When the trade deadline is all said and done, if you could only add at one position, it would be this. The options: starting pitcher, first base, third base, left field. I know they're going to add somebody in the bullpen. That's the only reason the bullpen is not included. They're absolutely going to add somebody in the bullpen. But of the other ones that you need, starting pitcher, first base, third base, left field, where do you think is most important to add? The thought process behind it, obviously, if you add at first base, means you don't have to play Bryce Harper there out of position. If you add at third base, you can play Alec Bohm at first base. If you add in left field, you have a better option to replace Kyle Schwarber as Kyle Schwarber DHs and Bryce Harper plays first base. And if you add starting pitcher, you don't trust Christopher Sanchez to be that fifth guy in the rotation, and you want to improve at that. So that's going to be off the poll for today. And I'm very interested to see what the reaction is come Monday's episode. We'll break down everything as far as the responses there. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Really appreciate it. Again, make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone who already has. I just said we were hitting 1.5 thousand. We're already up to 1.51 thousand. So a couple people subscribed just because of that. Let's keep the train rolling, okay? The more subscribers, the better. And it's such a great way to consume Locked On Phillies and really helps me out as well. So appreciate everyone who's done that. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Got the weekend off. I will talk to you Monday, hopefully after a good Phillies series in Cleveland against the Guardians, on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.